Boker Tov. Today's Daf is Daf Gimel in Baba Basra, as we learned from Chanukah Beis Yisrael and Sodom and Shivya. We turned the page yesterday, but let's look at the bottom of Gimel and Aleph again to get a view. We're talking here about, we learned in the Mishnah that every height of 4 amas can be supported by 5 tfachim of width of a wall. So the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom of the page, said, "Mikdasheni my time love at Amatraxin." So the question was, first we said, well, if 4 amas in height can be supported by 5 tfachim in width, how was it that in the base of Mikdash, where the height of the wall, the traxin between the Kodesh and Kodashim was 30 amas high, and it only had a width of 6, which is not the same proportion as 5 tfachim to 4 amos. This is a much higher wall. How was that supported? So the Gemara said, well, it could very well be, since there's an extra tefach, it's more than once it's beyond 5 tefachim, it's 6 tefachim, then it could support more. That was one answer. So the Gemara said, what about in the second base of Mikdash? Why didn't they make this wall, the partition between the Kodesh and Kodashim, why wasn't it made out of wall? It was made out of a curtain. The answer is kikoi betwasin. It only can hold up to, it'll only stand with its 30 tefachim, if 30 amas high. It wouldn't stand if it was more than that. It can only go up to there. And since in the second base of Mikdash, the height was like 100 amos, it wouldn't be able to stand with a wall of 6 tefachim thickness. It wouldn't stand. So therefore they used a curtain. How do we know that it was much, how do we know the second base of Mikdash had a much higher height than the first base of Mikdash? Pasuk says in the last line, the honor of the second bias will be greater than the first one. So Rav Shmuel, some say Rav Shmuel said, there's a machlok either between Rav Shmuel or Rabbi Yochanan. One means that it was greater in height. Achad Omar Bishanim, it was greater in that it lasted longer, because the second base of Mikdash lasted 10 years more than the first base of Mikdash. First base of Mikdash was 410 years. Second base of Mikdash was 420 years. But they're both true. Both the second base of Mikdash was greater in length of time that it lasted, and also it was much bigger. So so you say, okay, it won't stand. You couldn't stand a wall, a cement wall, a brick rock wall would not stand more than 30 amos high with such a width of 6 tefachim, such a thickness. So why don't you make 30 amos of wall, less an amen with stone, the idach navin prochus, and then the rest do prochus. Why did you do prochus for the whole thing? Why didn't you just stand as much as you can 30 amas in structure, and the rest would be with a curtain? It says kikoi tlas, and the reason that the 30 amos now stood was amos. So when the 30 amos stand with only a width of 6 tefachim, nami agav tikar basiva, because it had a ceiling. We mentioned this yesterday, and it's got plaster. In other words, it wasn't freestanding like there was no top. The wall stood and it was held in place by the ceiling and the plaster. Avikoi below tikar basiva, below avikoi wouldn't have stood. Yeah. Right. Right. Apparently there wasn't a foundation. And if there was, even so, it still wouldn't have stood if it didn't have something on top holding it in place. So I'll tell you what. So why didn't you say, fine, he couldn't stand, 30 amas couldn't stand by itself without a ceiling like it was in the first base of Mikdash, Shlomo's base of Mikdash. So why couldn't you stand, do as much as you can? How much will stand without a ceiling? 10 amos, 15 amos, 20 amos, do as much as you can with that. But and do the rest with the curtain. We had a tradition, equal of opinion, equal of a brachas. It's either got to be all structure or all curtain. You can't have a mixture of both. Equal of opinion in Mikdash. From the first base of Mikdash, we saw that it's all structure. Equal of a brachas mean Mishkan. The Mishkan, which was prior to both base of Mikdash, had a brachas. So from the Mishkan, we saw they had a curtain. Right? They didn't have a mixture of a curtain and a structure. It was either one or the other. Here's the question. In our Mishnah, we said going back to the wall that you have to build between neighbors in a chatzer, it's could either be 6 tefachim wide, or 5, or 4, or 3, depending on the materials that you use. Are those structures including the plaster, including the cement or not? When we talk about those amounts, is that including the cement? In other words, the bricks or the stones are slightly less than that, and then including the cement, that's the width or not? It's probably including the cement. These are hang below seating. If that's the width without the cement, let's not sure. So tell us how much extra is with the cement. In other words, tell us it's 6 tvachim, but it's actually 6.2 or 6.5 with the cement, because we're telling you instructions on how to build a fence, how to build a wall between neighbors. So it must be including the cement. This must be with the cement. Says, no, that's no proof. Maybe the amounts we're telling you are really without the cement. The cement adds to it. But since cement doesn't add a whole tefach, what the structures we're talking about are either from the bottom 3 tefachim, 4 tefachim, 5 or 6. But the added cement is less than a tefach. It doesn't show that because it's insignificant since it's less than a tefach. Since the cement does not come to a tefach, so Lo Tani didn't mention this. It's insignificant. It says belevenim, but the Kirsten the Bach, it's beguzis. By guzis it says zenosein tefach umachza or zes tefach tefayim machza. Either way, by the levenin, it says each one gives. By levenin, it says each one gives 1.5 of their 1.5 tefachim of their chatzir for the bricks. But it's more likely to say, or either way, the Bach says. But I'll tell you, because it's when it comes to trimmed stones, where those are 5 tefachim wide, each one gives 2.5. So here you do mention half. You want to say that it must be that the measurements in our Mishnah include the cement, because otherwise you're not telling us what it would include. How much is it with the cement? The answer is no. It could be that it's with the cement, right? Rather, it must be that it's with the cement, because otherwise tell us how much the cement is. Or he could tell you, no, it's without the cement. But the cement is insignificant because it's less than a tefach. But here by the levanin, which are 3 tefachim wide, the bricks, and each one gives 1.5, or by the guzes, which is 5 tefachim wide, each one gives 2.5. There you mention halves. So there, the 2 halves equal a whole, right? Because so it comes out to a tefach, but here not. So therefore, you can't prove it either way. You can't prove it. You could say that it doesn't include the tefach, and the cement is extra. Tashma will try to bring a proof from another case. Hakora, when it comes to on Shabbos and Erev, we learn that if you have a mavui, you can make what's called like a suras pesach outside to make the mavui like a private area. And then what you have to do is you put a cross beam on top. You have a lechi, which is like a stick or a stave, and then you have a cross beam on top. And then it has a tzuras pesach, and then the area, the mavui is considered like a private area, semi-private area. Tashma hakora shamru, this beam that we talked about, it's got to be wide enough or thick enough to be able to accept a half brick on it without falling. It'll stay there. But how much is the ariyach? Is chatz levena, a half a brick. Shel gemot tefachim. Ariyach is a half a brick of 3 tefachim. So what do you see over here? Here you say it's got to be enough for ariyach, and ariyach is a half a brick. Here the brick does not include cement. There's no cement there. And, we're not talking about a cement. We're just talking about 2 halves equal a whole tefach. So here you see that the levena does not include the cement. There's just no hasam baravrasa. Maybe there it's a large one. There's different kinds of bricks. It's a larger one it has the equivalent of built-in cement. They can shlosha tefachim b'chlal de'gezutre. Mashma that there are bricks that are slightly smaller. So maybe that would include the cement. In other words, in our Mishnah, when it talks about 3 tefachim, maybe it includes the cement. So therefore, you can't really prove it one way or another. Okay. So maybe it includes it, maybe it doesn't.
The more brought that case that wanted to bring a proof Mishkan, but the Mishkan was portable. Not going to have a permanent foundation to build. It's portable.
It's a good point. It's portable, but still, they could have built it.
They didn't build a brick foundation.
They built things, and they built things. They built schools in the Warsaw ghetto, even though it wasn't going to last forever. Things that they could.
Was made to be portable.
Okay, but it could have been could have made out of wood. They could have built it out of wood. They could have built it out of sticks and wood, out of a structure, not a curtain. Still, it was made out of a curtain. So, Mishkan, yeah. No, parts that we're talking here about the partition between the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodeshim. That was a partition. So I'm just saying it could have been, it could have been out of wood. So that's also a structure, Okay, and it wasn't. So, all right. Now, once we talk about the Beis Hamikdash, so we get into shuls, which are like a small Beis Hamikdash, like we have here. Amar Rav Chisda, L'lister inish bei knishta, shouldn't destroy a shul. This happens in many places. They want to demolish the old shul in order to build a nicer, bigger one. So he says you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't destroy the old one until you build another one. Some say because maybe you'll never build it. They decided to demolish the first one, and then raise money, and maybe they'll never get around to it. Some say mishum sluya, because of a place to daven. You want to be shul. Maybe if the nafkamina would be if there's another shul. If there's another shul where you could daven in the other shul, so then it's not a problem. If the concern is that maybe you won't build the other one, so therefore you should build the new one before you destroy the old one, then that reason would still apply. Now here he has the girsa. Let's see, the girsa and the Marsha brings down that not that it's another shul. You have another place. You have another place to daven. This would make an afkamina of bismanazeh. Today, when people might say, okay, well, we only have one lot of land, and we're going to demolish the shul and build another one. You say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean it? Do you have if it's because of Shia, so maybe you won't build it, right? If you're going to not raise the money. But if the reason is because you don't have a place to daven, it doesn't have to necessarily be another shul. Maybe they're davening in somebody's house while they're building the other one, right? That happens in some places. They'll say, okay, well, we're going to daven in the rabbi's house while we demolish the shul and build a new one. So you don't need another shul necessarily daven. You need a place to daven. So therefore, you shouldn't destroy an old shul unless with the intention of building a new one. Unless either you build the new one first, because the concern is maybe you won't build it, or the reason is because you won't have a place to daven. But if you do have a place to daven for the second reason, if you have another place to daven, then it's okay. And he brings a proof to that. These two rabbis, Sasri Bani, they would demolish and rebuild a shul bekaita, a summer shul besifta in the fall. There were two shuls in that area. One was built for the winter, that it didn't have that many windows, etc. And one was built for the summer. So they would demolish and rebuild the summer one during the winter time when it wasn't in use. And if they didn't, there was no concern about, well, maybe they won't rebuild it because they had another one. So if the reason is because of Shia, so that could have happened. We'll see if there's no concern about Shia, so maybe when there's a Rav involved. But certainly if you have another place to daven, like in this case, Tosfos talks about other reasons for it, but the good reason is that they had another place to daven. So if for some reason they didn't build it, they still had another place, and they would rebuild the winter one during the summertime. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So he asked him this question. So he say you can't build another shul. You can't build another shul if you first destroy. You can't destroy the old shul until you build the first one. Till you rebuild the new one, rather. You can't destroy the old one until you build the new one. So if Rashi said, Gavu Zuzi Umachsi, what happens if they collected the money for already? The money, what's your concern? Maybe you won't be able to raise the money. What happens if you collected the money already, the money's ready mine? Maybe they'll have to redeem some captives, like unfortunately we have today. They can't be redeemed with money. Maybe you'll need the money for that. In other words, you've collected the money for the shul, but all of a sudden, pidyon shvuim is a big mitzvah. Maybe you use the money for that. The avlu, and they'll pay for the captives with that money. So therefore, you can't rely on the money even if you've collected already. What about srigi livni? What happens if the bricks are piled up, ready to go? You've already got the materials right here. Hadri hudri, and the roof slats are also ready. Everything is ready right there. Rashi says that So the they're already planed the roofing that you're going to use, those planks or whatever, already smooth and ready to go. And the beams that you're going to use are already ready in place. What happens if everything's ready to build? You still can't destroy the old one. And because you still might have a case of opinion shvuim might come up. You'll sell all the materials. You'll give the money to redeem the captives. So if that's the case, even if it was built, Tosa says that if you haven't started davening there, once you started davening and it's a regular shul, you can't sell the shul to redeem captives. But let's say you built the whole thing already, but you didn't start davening there. Maybe you'll sell it first. People don't sell their own house and certainly their own shul. This that we say that you shouldn't destroy the old shul, you shouldn't demolish the old shul before you build it. It's only if you haven't seen cracks in the shul. In other words, it's beginning to fall apart. If you're seeing cracks in it, it's starting to fall apart. Then sasri that you could demolish it with bunny and new one. Ravashi saw cracks in the shul. Which shul? The Masmachasya of that town, Masmachasya, city in Babel. Sasri, he demolished it. By what did he do? He demolished it, but he was afraid of the halacha. You shouldn't demolish the old one before you build a new one. He brought his own bed in there. In the demolished area, he brought, where they were going to rebuild a new one, he put his bed in there. He didn't take out his bed, meaning he slept there every day until they finished the building and added gutters, shvicha, for the water to go out. If they wanted to build a new shul with proper gutters so that the rainwater should not spill into the shul. So that's what happened with the shul. Back to the case of the Beis Hamikdash. Who built that second Beis Hamikdash? The beautiful Beis Hamikdash was, of course, Hordis. And how did he build it? With the advice of Baba ben Buta, who was really the only rabbi that he left alive. So the Gemara now says in the first of the wide lines of the Gemara, Baba ben Buta hechi asbele eitzel. Why did he give advice to Hordis, lemistre the Beis Hamikdash, to destroy the Beis Hamikdash? How were you allowed to? He advised him, okay, this little Beis Hamikdash that Ezra had put together. How did he advise him to demolish that one? Rav Chisda, we just learned, said, you shouldn't destroy one until you build the other one. And obviously they wanted to build it in the right place on Har Bayis. One answer is that he saw that it was beginning to fall apart. It's different when you're talking about the government. A government, once it takes upon itself the responsibility to do it, especially a king, where it's not a democracy and he decides something and that's it, he won't retract. Shmuel said, if the king says to uproot the mountain, they'll remember and he won't retract. So that's why he told them, even though you're not supposed to demolish a shul before you built the new one, in this case it was different because it was either falling apart or because he knew that Hordis wouldn't retract. Who was Hordis? Hordis Abda Beis Hashemai. He was a slave. He was a slave, Eved Kanani, in the ownership of the Chashmonaim kings. That's who he was. Hordis Abda the Beis Hashemai Habe. Nasanei Bosa Tinokas, and he took a liking to one young Chashmonaim girl there and wanted to marry. Yom Echad, one day, Shama, he heard a baskol. Shama baskol. He heard a baskol, a voice from heaven saying, "Amr kol abda demarid, whichever slave will rebel right now, hashta mitzlach, he'll be successful." So he got up, katlanu lekula marosei, he killed all the masters in the house, and he killed all the Beis Hashmonaim. And he left over that young girl that he wanted to marry. So once that young girl saw, that young Chashmonaim girl heard or saw what his plan was, that he wanted to marry her, and he had killed everybody else. So she went up on the roof. Ramas Kola, she raised her voice, Amra. Kol man da'asi, whoever comes from Beis Hashmonaim, whoever says I come from Beis Hashmonaim and I'm entitled to the monarchy. You should know he's an Eved. Why? Nobody is left. He has killed the entire royal family of the Chashmonaim. He's killed everybody. Nobody's left except for me. By units enough and I'm killing myself right now. She jumped off the roof and killed herself, so there was nobody left. So whoever comes and says, you should know that he's an Eved. Thus says even though he could marry a Jewish woman, etc., but whatever. But he didn't do that. So whoever came, claimed that for Hashemon was an Evet, according to what she said. Now he had killed her. She killed herself rather, but he had loved her so much. So what did he do? Tamna Sheva Shanim Betufsha. He preserved her body for 7 years in honey, apparently in a place where maybe he made it look like she was still alive. You can have some say Paul, some say that he slept with her even though she was dead. You can have some say Lo Paul that he didn't sleep with her. But the ones who said that he slept with her, right? So the reason why he preserved her, I'd say, to gratify his Yetzer Hara, that he wanted to sleep with her. So that's why he preserved her body, so that he could sleep with her to gratify his passion. So the Amrullah, the ones who say Lo Baleh, if he didn't sleep with her, so why did he preserve her? I did Timna, the reason he had preserved her, the people should say Bas Melchas. Look, he married a princess, so he's a prince. If she's a princess, he must be a prince. Amar, he said, Man Darish who darshaned, who expounded these words? You should make a king only from among your brethren, meaning excluding Hordus, who was an Evet. Who was that? Rabbanan. The rabbis explained that. No, come, so you got to Petlin Rabbanan. After he had killed all the Chashmonaim, and now the rabbi said he was not fit to be a king, so he killed all the rabbis. Shafkul Babamuta. He left Babamuta alive in order to get advice from him. The Mishkol made in order to get advice. So he left one rabbi alive to keep advice from him, to get advice from him. But what did he do? Ahadrele Klila, he took a wreath, Daily. He took a wreath that was from like a porcupine with sharp points on it and put it around his eyes, and I wanted to knock out the eyes of Baba Muta. So he blinded Baba Muta. He was not a nice guy, this Hordus fellow, right? So he killed the whole Chashmonaim, he killed all the rabbis except Babuta, and he blinded Babuta. Yomachar, one day also, he came and he sat next to Baba Babuta, and Baba Babuta was blind, so he couldn't see who he was. And he came and he pretended that he wasn't Hordus, the evil king. Amar Chazi Mar Hayav Dabisha. Have you seen what this wicked king has done? What should Maikov, have you seen what he's done? What a terrible king. Tried to instigate him to say something bad. Amalei, so Babmut said, My Avalei, what can I do? What do you want from me? He said, can I see? You realize I can't see. And what should I do? Amalei Nataya Amar, so why don't you curse him? Amalei, it says, even in your thoughts, you should never curse a king. Amalei, I love Melechu, he's not a king. After all, he's only a slave. So again, this was Hordus talking, and Hordus pretended to be the king, but here he's pretending to Babuta. He's not a king, he's nobody. Give him a curse. Even if he's only a wealthy man, which he certainly is, he's not a wealthy person. Because it says, in your bedroom, you shouldn't curse the rich person. Even if he's only a prince or a governor, you shouldn't curse a prince in your nation. So Hordus was a little bit educated as well. That's only when he's doing the right thing. He's doing mitzvahs because he's killed all these people and he's usurped the throne. So Babmut says, well, even so, Mustafina Mine, I'm afraid of him. Why are you afraid of him? It's only me, you. Like somebody said, can you tell me it's me, you, and the lamppost, right? You got to worry about that lamppost, It's only me and you here. What are you worried about? The Anavat, Yasif, it's only me and you sitting here. Amalei, it says, Kiof Hashemayim Yolech. Kael says, Kiof Hashemayim Yolech. The bird of the heavens will go take this message, take the voice. The one with his wings, meaning the bird. Yaakov will say, in other words, you don't know. The lamppost may talk. Amalei, we're at the first of the wide lines on Dalam and Alf. Amalei, Anahu. So now Hordus revealed himself after he saw that he couldn't entice Baba Muta to say something bad about Hordus. He said, well, you know what? I am Hordus. Yeah, but Yadina, if I would know that the rabbis are so careful with their words not to curse a king, not to curse anybody, be very careful. I wouldn't have killed them all. What can I do now? Can you give me advice? What should I do? What he's talking about himself in third person, of course, giving himself honor. You extinguished the lights of the world, the lights meaning the rabbis who brought Torah, the Sif Kinyer mitzvah v'Torah or, because what the mitzvah is like a light, and the Torah is also the light, and the mitzvah is a candle, let's say, and Torah is or. You've extinguished that. You should go and occupy yourself with the light of the world. All the nations of the world will be enlightened by the Beis Hamikdash. So go be involved in the Beis Hamikdash. Again, because Baba Munti saw that it was either falling apart, it needed a nicer finish, needed a good shiputz. Some say, this is what the Buddha replied to Buddhas. Husuma eino shalom, you blinded the eye of the world of Siv. If from the eyes of the Ada, which is that's the Sanhedrin, that's really this week's parsha, right? If they all committed a sin and like a parahel double shel tzibur, and if they made a sin, what they should do? So the Einei Ada are the Mecham. So you should go and occupy yourself with the eye of the world, the Siv. Hashem foretold that I will profane my bigdash. Gaon uschem, the pride of your strength. Machman inechem, the delight of your eyes. I'm going to destroy that, your eyes. So again, the base means refer to eyes. You blinded the eyes of the world. You blinded the eyes, Ein Shalom. So you should go be osek in the eyes of the world, which here refers to the base means. Amalei, Mistafinu Malchusa. I'm afraid to go do that, to take such an undertaking to destroy the base means and build a new beautiful one. I'm afraid of my own bosses back in Rome. Right? And those are the Romans were in charge. Amalei Shadar Shlicha, send a messenger to ask the Romans if you can do that. Belezel Shas will take him a year to get to Rome. Leakov Shasa, he'll have to stay there a year, to go to the duty free and buy things. They didn't have Amazon, so he had to, spend a year buying stuff to bring back and come back from Chaslards. Well, Shasa will take him a year to get back. That's 3 years, right? During those 3 years, during those 3 years, Sasha Slay, you'll demolish the old base and Mikdash. Ubana Slay, and you'll build a new one. Avrachi, so he took his advice. Baba Mbuta gave him this advice, and he listened to him. That's what he did. Shalchulei. So meanwhile, he built the base meeting for those 3 years. When he got the message back from Rome, the Shalchulei sent him this message: Im lo sasrusa, if you haven't demolished it yet, don't do it. Im sasrusa, and if you have demolished it, al tibni, don't build a new one. Im sasrusa, if you've demolished the old one and built a new one, avde bisha, you're a bad slave. Basar the Avdin mismachan. After you've done the job, then you ask. You're a bad guy. You're not a good slave. A good slave should ask before you do something. After you did it, then you ask if it's okay, retroactively, right? That's not good. Avdibisha basar the Avdin mismachan. Im zanachalecha, if you have your weapons on you, meaning if you think you pride yourself with your weapons, sifcha khan. We have your file is right here, meaning we know who you are. Lo racha v'lo baracha. You're not a king and you're not the son of a king. Hordus avda klini. You're a eved who has freed himself, turned himself into a free man. He made himself into a free man. You're simply a simple slave. We know who you are. My racha. What does racha mean? Malchusa, king. The sif anochi ayom. David Amel said anochi ayom racha mashuach melech. I am now rach, like soft, but also mashuach melech. Rach refers to king. You say mehacha. The front of Avrech, right? By Yosef, they call it front of Avrech, right? Avrech is lashon of Rach, also means a king. Amri, that said, Mishal Ra Binyan, whoever did not see the Binyan, the beautiful base of where it's built, the Ra Binyan, no, you've never seen anything. It was the greatest wonder of the world at that time. Whoever didn't see that did not see a beautiful building. There's nothing compared to it. How did he build it? Amarabba, he used different kinds of marble. Shaisha Rashi says it's like greenish or yellowish marble, and Marmara is it's not the name of that ship that they broke down. Marmara, Shaish Levin, white marble. They use the different colors like green and white marble. Some say Bavne Kuchla Shaisharim. Some say that he used blue also. Blue, green, yellowish, and white. Optic Safa, the Isle Safa. One layer went out and one layer went in. In other words, it wasn't like one straight flush. It wasn't one straight flush wall, but some of the wall went in, some went out. So that the cement, there would be room for the cement in between, and it was very good. Savar the Mashai B'Dapim, he wanted to line it with gold, line the outside with a gold trimming, like with the the gold cover. Amalei Rabban said, "Shafke, leave it the way it is. It's better this way you've done it, with all this marble with different colors." The Mech say it looks it looks like the waves of the ocean with the blue and the green. Pardon?
Which Rabban?
Maybe it was Baba Ben Buta's children, huh? It's very good. I guess the one, but you're right. Maybe it's other rabbis. He killed them, so maybe it means the rabbis like Baba Ben Buta, right? Baba Ben Buta, maybe him and his brothers or his children, maybe it says he killed them all, right? Got little cooler up on him. Maybe other rabbis came forth now. Okay. So he I guess whoever was left, they appointed them assistant rabbis. They gave him a lot of Baba Buta gave him smicha. Says more Baba Buta, how could he do this? How could he give advice to Hordis how to redeem himself? Why was Daniel punished? We'll see what his punishment was. He gave advice to Nebuchadnezzar. Now there wasn't talking about Bugmes, which was other advice. Shenamar, Lahei Malka, Malche Shaper Alecha, to this king, your kingdom should be good for you, should flourish. And your sins will be redeemed by charity. And also your sins will be pacified, will be redeemed by being kind to the poor. And your peace and tranquility should have length. All this happened to Malcolm. At the end of 12 months, meaning his punishment was stayed for 12 months because of the advice that he fulfilled the advice of Daniel to do good to the poor and to do some mitzvahs. So we see over here that Daniel was punished for giving advice to the evil king Nebuchadnezzar. So it's different than Eved. Nebuchadnezzar was a guy, shouldn't have given him advice. But Eved, Hordis still was an Eved, and Eved Knani's chayv mitzvahs like a woman. So therefore, he had an obligation to tell him how to do tshuva. Shani Beis Hamikdash, it's different from the Beis Hamikdash. If it wouldn't be for the king, nobody can go build the Beis Hamikdash on their own. If it wouldn't be for the power of the king, the power and wealth of the king, it couldn't have been built. Nobody could take it upon themselves. There's no budget, right? There's no budget. The budget is all for cars, for the wives of the police officers. There's money for everything, but not for the important things, right? It wouldn't be for a malchus, meaning a dictatorship, it wouldn't have been built. So that's why Baba Muta did the right thing by advising Hordis of how to atone for his terrible, terrible sins by doing some good. Maybe this was also a source that they brought for taking reparations from the Germans, even though they did the most horrible thing in the world history. They all fight, back in history, they take reparations from them or not. Some people said, don't, it's blood money. Others said, they still needed the money to build the country, and that's what happened. So if it wouldn't be from out, wouldn't be able to get it done. But Daniel, how do we know Daniel was punished? Even says by Tikra Esther Lasach. Esther in Megillah's Purim, it says Esther called Hasach. Rav Hasach said Daniel. She called Daniel. So maybe it means from there. And so how do we see that he was punished? That's good. Hatach means he was cut, like he was cut down from his higher job. That was his punishment. So that's how we know if that was Daniel. That was Daniel. Rav says that was Daniel. But why was he called Hasach, not Daniel? Because he was cut down from his high positions. That was his punishment. He's called Hasach Shekol Divrei Malchus Nechtachin Al Piv. Everything, every royal decree was finished, was, so to speak, sealed by him. Nechtach was cut, meaning sealed and delivered by him. That means that he won't see that he was punished from there. Says Michael, how do you know that he was punished? He answers that he was thrown into the lion's den, right? Daniel was in the lion's den. That was his punishment, even though he was saved, but that was his punishment. All right, so tomorrow's daf is Daf Daled, which we're on now. That'll be on the podcast. I think we started even from Baba Babuta. You'll see that on the podcast. That'll take you through all of tomorrow's daf. And on Sunday, Meretz Hashem, we'll start with the very top of Daf Hayomi Aleph, Sunday's daf, from the very first word, Runya. That was his name. We'll start from there on Sunday, and hopefully on Sunday we'll get to the 2 dots on Monday's daf, since Monday is a short day. Shabbat Shalom l'kulam b'sorot tovot.